Ori, mic testing, mic testing. Okay, perfect. Let me go to my main camera. Alright, we're live. And as you guys can tell by the title and thumbnail, today I'm going to be going through logical operators and some C++ basics. So without any further ado, let me go to my gameplay screen. And yeah, I did have Sensei on here. And guys, this is the same chat as yesterday because I didn't have time to study chat. That said, let me say Sensei. Is my keyboard not working? Okay, there we go. I was like, oh my gosh, what? So Sensei, I'm live! Exclamation. Hey, let's see. Vivek, welcome back to the battlefield. Listen up, stream. Today is not a day for weak hearts. Today, Vivek will push past his limits and show these vectors who commands them. Front, back, size, capacity, Okay, here's the thing, guys. I didn't say Sensei what I was going to do because I've been really busy, so let me just say it real quick. So Sensei, for this stream, I want to work with the logical operators in C++, ... That said, maybe also include some functions that we did yesterday. Okay, let's see. Oh, and guys, I actually forgot to mention people on my Discord that I'm live. I usually do that, guys. I sometimes forget. Okay, let me just do that. Okay, let me copy the link real quick. Okay, go to my Discord. And guys, if you guys want my Discord's link, you guys can type hashtag Discord on the chat. I set the link to be permanent. It won't expire anymore. Let me say, add everyone, we live, exclamation. I will hashtag everyone. There we go. Okay. Alright, perfect. With that said, good. You chose the path of far logical operators. Reminder PC passes. Okay. Good. You chose the path of far logical operators will break the weak and force the strong. Here's how we'll do the stream. We'll practice and or not in real problems. We combine them with the vector functions from yesterday. Front, back, pushback, insert, erase, size, capacity. You learn to think like a strategist, setting conditions, branching logic, and controlling your vector army. First warm up, I want you to create a standard vector, okay, so a container that just consists of integers called grades, with at least 5 numbers. If the first grade is above 90 and the last grade, okay, if the first grade is above 90, the last grade is even, print strong start and stable finish. Else if the first grade is below 50 or the last grade is below 50, print warning, weak edge, else print average performance. Okay, after that add a new grade, push underscore back, remove one with erase, Okay, I see. Okay, let me get Sensei there. That said, let me just use some of the bomb. Guys, my lips is really dried. Okay, that said, I didn't add any modifications whatsoever since my last stream. So this is the code from my last stream. Let me just go with a Control A, delete everything, and zoom in. And let's see the first instruction. The first instruction is I want you to create a standard vector. But before that, I will be including, so hashtag include IO stream. So let me go ahead and include IO stream. Basically, what IO stream does is it tells C++ that we're showing an output on the screen or we want an input. I will be including, let's say, vector as well. Vector is basically our container. Okay, next up, let me go ahead and typecast my main function to be an integer and then go with a pair of curly braces, maybe a bunch of spaces. Now I'll create a standard vector, which is only going to be consisting of integers. I will be calling this vector grades. Let's go with grades. I'll set that equal to, how many grades did I need? Let's see. With at least 5 grades, I could go with something like 80, 90, 95, 60, 87, and 82. Okay, I don't think those are 5. That looks like 6. Okay, perfect. Okay, let me just add some space there. Alright, perfect. I will be ending my, I forgot. My container with a semicolon. And then if the first grade is above 90 and the last grade is even, print strong start and stable finish. So first let's check if our first grade is either above 90 or an even number. I could use a if statement for that, so I'll go with the if statement. If, let's go with a pair of parentheses. So if my first grade, so I could go with something like grades dot front, the front function, if my first grade is above 90, so I'll go with greater than 90, and the last grade is even. Okay, and the last grade is even. How do I check for the last grade? And so I could go with an and. I'll go with grades dot the back function. Okay, so don't I need to, like, did I spell grades wrong? I did spell it wrong, no wonder. There we go. So if my first grade is greater than 90 and my last grade is an even number, so my grades modulus 2 equals to okay, my grades modulus 2 equals to 0. Modulus 2 equals to 0 basically means that a number is whatchamacallit, even if it was like not equals to 0, like if I change that to not equal to 0, that means if it's an odd number. Or if I change the 0 to 1, that would be like this odd number as well. Okay, with that said, if that happens, I'm going to be printing a standard console output. So I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. Okay, I'm going to be inserting a text. What text do I need to insert? Strong start and stable finish. So let's go with strong start and stable finish. Okay, perfect. What are you doing? Honestly, I'm trying to master the C++ basics. This is like a C++ for 100 series, which is indented inside of my programming for 258 series. My goal by the end of my programming for 258 series was to make a game in general that includes AI intelligence or like AI logic in it. That said, I thought since I am going to be making a game, C++ would be a great language to learn. Okay, I will be ending that with a semicolon. Alright, next up, else if the grade is below 50 or the last grade is below 50. Okay, so if the first grade or the last grade is less than 50, I'm going to be printing warning weak edge. Okay, so let's go with an else if now. So I'll go with an else if statement with a pair of parentheses. Okay, hello. Howdy monster, I appreciate you joining the stream. Okay, so let's see, else if my grades.front is less than 50, or like we can like say or with like two pipes. Is that called pipelines or like double bars? Okay, or my last grade is below 50, or my grades dot the back function is less than 50. Okay, I'm going to be printing something, and I'm pretty sure I spelled grades wrong here. There we go. I'm going to be printing something, so I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. I want to insert something. I'll insert a text that's called warning weak edge. Okay, let's go with warning weak edge. There we go. Okay, and I will be ending that with a semicolon as well. Honestly, after my this if statement here, I could go with a standard console output with another insertion operator of a standard end line. So my this text is going to be in a new line. Okay, although if I do that, my else, oh, I think I wouldn't need this for else if. This should most likely just be going for ifs, right? Okay, maybe I could add it here. The standard, let's go with a new line, /n. Okay, this doesn't need a standard, honestly. There we go. Okay, let me add a pair of double quotes here. Okay, perfect. Let me do the same thing here. I'll go with a standard /n. Alright, next up, let's see, else print average performance. Let's go with an else clause now. So I'll go with else, and this time instead of a pair of parentheses, I am just going to be having a pair of double parentheses or like curly braces. I'm going to be going with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying average performance. So I'll go with average performance, exclamation. Did I spell performance correct? PERFORMACE. Okay, MANCE. There we go. Guys, I gotta like work more on my spellings. That said, I will be ending that with a semicolon as well. maybe I'll go with a standard, actually with a new line. So I'll go with new line to /n. Okay, perfect. After that, add a new grade with pushback, remove the one with erase. Okay, after that, add a new grade with push underscore back function, remove the one with erase, and then print all grades plus size plus capacity. Okay, so it says to add a new grade using pushback. So let me go with let's say my vector of grades dot the push underscore back function. Okay, what do I want to push back? Add a new grade. I'll go with something like 99. Okay, this adds a grade. I will be ending that with a semicolon, and then it says remove one with erase. So what grade do I remove? Let's remove 80. So I'll go with something like grades dot erase function. I want to erase something from my grades, so I'll go with grades dot begin. Grades dot the begin function. Basically, what the begin function does is it takes the first element inside of our vector. Since the first element is 80, it's going to be erasing our first element, which is 80. Okay, next up, and then print all grades plus size plus capacity. Let's go ahead and print my grades. So for printing something in my vector, since my vector is a container, I'm going to be iterating over it. So I'll go with something like a for loop. So for, I'll go with a pair of parentheses for every, let's say, integer of grade in my vector of grades. In is represented by a colon. In my grades, I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then let's go with a standard console output. So standard console output with an insertion operator. I'm going to be inserting my grade, and my grade is going to be separated by a space. So this avoids my grades to like be clumped up together. A space is like one grade, space, another grade. Okay, with that said, let me go ahead and print my side and capacity as well. So I will go with like a standard console output with a standard end line. Okay, I want to print my side and capacity in a new line. Okay, standard console output. Okay, standard end line. There. Okay, and L. Alright, perfect. Next up, I print the size and capacity. To do that, I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. I'll add a text. This is going to be the size of my grades. Okay. And then I'll add another insertion operator here. Let's say my grade.side. Grade.side. Okay. Actually, the grade.size function. My grades.size function. Grades.size function. Okay, with another insertion operator. Maybe of a new line. Okay, next up, let me go with my capacity. So I'll go with a standard console output. So standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be my capacity. How do you spell capacity? I spelled it wrong. There we go, capacity. Okay, and then I'll add an insertion operator and go with my grades.the capacity function. Okay, with another insertion operator, I will add a pair of parentheses there. There we go. Did I spell capacity wrong? There we go. Okay, off a new line. Let's go with a new line. Okay, that's basically it. I'm gonna return 0. Okay, and now if I were to hit like Control S and save my code and run the command. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it says average performance. This is our grade. Size 5, capacity 10. Perfect. Okay, let's go with a Control C, copy that. Let me get /chatgpt here. Okay, go down. Paste it, go with Shift. Did I like paste the whole thing? I feel like let me go with a Control C, copy that whole thing, get Sensei here. Okay, let me paste it, go with Shift, Enter, and let's say, Sensei, is this what you wanted? Pretty sure this is, but I got it accept and confirm because like in Python it was easier to read the instructions and work accordingly in the code. C++ is a bit complex. Yes, Vivek, that's exactly what I wanted you to. That's exactly what I wanted you. Summon the logical operator and bound them to your vector army like a true commander. You correctly used and for the strong start and stable finish. You changed, okay, the pipeline or double bars for the weak edge connection condition. You remember to check evenness with modulus 2. You follow it up with the pushback and erase the pushback. Basically adds a number to the end of our vector. You display both size and capacity. The only flaw your message, strong start and stable finish, is missing the exclamation point at the end. Like I said, tiny detail, but in the battlefield of programming, such small mistakes can cost lives. Next time, precision. But overall, you did right. I'm proud. Don't get comfortable though. Next challenge will be harder, more conditions, more operators, and multiple vector manipulations. Do you want me to throw this? Do you want me to throw you straight into the harder challenge now? Okay, let me say yes. Let's say. Okay, let's see. Good. Since you're ready to bleed on the harder battlefield, here it comes. Challenge of logic and steel. Create a standard vector which only consists of integers called score with 6 numbers. Then if the first score is above 70 and the last score is odd, print strong but risky. Else if the first score is below 40 or the last score is below 40, print weak edge detected. Else if the first score is between 50 and 70 and the last score is greater than 80, print average start, strong finish with an exclamation mark. Else print unbalanced performance. Then modify the vector. Use push underscore back to add a new score. Use insert to add another score at the index 2. Use the erase function to remove the element at index 3. Finally, print all the scores that display the front function, back function, size function, and capacity function. Let's see if we can handle multiple else ifs. Okay, let me get set there. Let's start off by deleting the code. And I'm going to be starting off by including IO stream. Maybe I spell it correct. INCLUDE. There we go. I'm going to be including IO stream, which is basically eyes and ears of our program. And then I'm going to be including vector as well. This is going to be for our containers. Okay, vector. Alright, perfect. Next up, I'm going to be typecasting my main function to be an integer. Then I have a pair of curly braces, maybe go with a bunch of spaces. Now I'm going to be creating a standard vector. So standard vector. There we go, which is only going to be consisting of, I forgot what was it supposed to consist. Okay, this is going to be scores, so it's only going to be consisting of integers. I will be calling this vector scores. Okay, and I'll set my scores equal to a few scores. So what else scores do I need? With 6 numbers. Okay, so I gotta add my scores. So I could go with something like 20, 50, 90, 66, 40, and let's go with 88. Okay, perfect. I will be ending my my vector with a semicolon, and then what's the next instruction? If the first score is above 70 and the last score is odd, print strong but risky. So let's go with the if statement. So if, I'll go with a pair of parentheses. So if my first score, so if I could go with something like my scores is vector dot the front function. This gets me the first element, which is 20. If my first score is above 70 and the last score is odd, so if my first score is greater than 70, okay, and my last score, so I'll go with my scores dot back. Scores dot back basically gives me the last score, which is 88, and my last score is odd. Okay, my last score modulus 2 is not equal to 0, or I could write is equal to 1. Both work honestly. I'll go with not equal to 0. It's not equal to 0. Okay, I'm going to be printing strong but risky, so I'll go with a pair of curly braces and then add a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying strong but risky. Was there an exclamation? There was. Okay, perfect. I will be ending that with a semicolon, but before that I will add a new line. So an insertion operator, new line. Alright, perfect. Let's see. Next up, else if the score is below 40 or the last score is below 40, if the first score is below 40 or the last score is below 40, print weak edge detected. Okay, let's go with an else if now. So I'll go with an else if. Else if a pair of parentheses, maybe I spelled my else correct. Okay, else if a pair of parentheses, my first score, so I'll go with my scores dot front. If my first score is, was it less than? If my first score is below 40, so if my first score is less than 40, or which is like this pipeline or poll, or my last score. So I can go with my scores dot back, or my last score is less than 40. Okay, then I print weak edge detected. Okay, I'll go with a pair of curly braces and then add a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like weak edge detected. Okay, exclamation, and then I'll add another insertion operator and go with a new line. I will be ending that with a semicolon. That said, the third instruction, else if the score is between 50 and 70 and the last score is either greater than 80, print average start strong finish. Okay, so let's go with another else if. I'll go with an else if, add a pair of parentheses. Okay, else if the first score is between 50 and 70. Okay, is between 50 and 70. Okay, so if my scores is vector dot the front function, if my front score is 50, okay, so is either equal to 50, okay, and 70. I'll go with and my scores dot front, okay, is equal to 70. Okay, my scores dot front. Okay, and the score is greater than 80, and the last score is greater than 80. Okay, let's go with another and. And my scores dot back, my last score is greater than 80. Okay, I'm going to be adding a standard console output. So I'm going to be printing average start but strong finish. So I'll go with like something like std : console output, a standard console output. Average start strong finish. So I'll go with average start exclamation. Okay, actually average start, let's go with like a comma and then strong finish exclamation. Okay, and then I will be adding a insertion operator, and then let me go ahead and insert a new line. Okay, honestly, this part was a bit tricky because it's like kind of different in Python. In Python, when I was doing like my Python Pro 100A series, there I could like change stuff. For example, if I want to check if my first score is either less than 50 or like is either equal to 50. If my first score is between 50 and 70, so I feel like something is wrong in this part. But in Python, I could go with like if 50 is less than or equal to my score, which is less than or equal to 70, that would like change stuff. With C++, that's not how it works. Okay, if my score dot front is either greater than or equal to 50 or less than or equal to 70. Okay, is greater than or equal to 50 or less than or equal to 70. I think this works because what this tells is if my score is either more than 50 or equal to 50 and my scores dot front is either less than 70 or equal to 70. I think that's correct. Alright, lastly I'll go with else print unbalanced performance. So I'll go here and type else clause. Okay, else a pair of curly braces. I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. I'm going to be inserting a text that says unbalanced performance exclamation. Okay, then I will be ending that. Maybe I'll add another insertion operator and go with a new line. Okay, with that said, then modify the vector. Use pushback to add a new score to the end. Okay, use insert to add another score at index 2. Use erase to remove the element at index 3. Okay, finally print all scores and display front back to. Okay, so first I got a pushback. So let's go with my scores as vector dot the push underscore back function. I'll add a new score of something like 99. Okay, and then let me go ahead and erase something. So I could go with like scores dot erase. I want to erase something. I'll go with my scores as vector. Okay, dot let's say, okay, I got to erase something at index 3. So I'll go with begin. Okay, begin basically gets index 1, although index 3 is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be 66. Index 1, I gotta plus it with 3. Okay, let's plus it by 3. And then let's see. Okay, remove the third element, that's all. Alright, next up I will be ending this with a semicolon. And let's go with my scores vector again dot insert because I do want to insert something. Insert to add another score at index 2. So let's go with my scores as vector dot begin function. Okay. Okay, what do I want to begin at? What position? Index 2. So that's index 0, which it initially starts with. Index 1, index 2. So I got to plus it with 2. Okay, plus 2, and the score is going to be something like 77. Alright, I'll end it up with a semicolon, and then bros in Indian scammer. What you mean, guys? Okay, finally, print all these scores, then display front, back, size, and capacity. Let me go ahead and print all my scores. In order to print all my scores, I'm going to be iterating over my vector, so let's go with a for loop. So I'll go with for a pair of parentheses. Okay, I'll go with for every integer of score in my vector of scores. Okay, I'm going to be doing something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. I want to insert my score. My scores will be separated by a comma, so they don't like clunk up together. That said, I will be ending that with a semicolon, and then, okay, print all these scores, then display front, back, size, and capacity. Okay, so this prints all my scores. I might actually end it with a new line as well, so I'll go with like a / new line. Okay, perfect. Next up, let me go ahead and display my front. So I could go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. Maybe I'll write a text that says front. Okay, this is going to be, let's see, another insertion operator. I'll go with a standard console output. Honestly, I'll go with my scores.front. This is going to give me my scores at index 0, my first ever score inside of my vector. Okay, and then I will be adding another insertion operator and adding a new line here. Next up, I'll go with another standard console output, okay, with an insertion operator. This is going to be back, so I'll go with back. Okay, and then add another insertion operator. I'll go with scores.back, okay. This is going to give me the last index of my, the last element in my vector of scores. I'll add another insertion operator and then go with a / n. Okay, next up, I need to find the size. So let's go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be my size with another insertion operator of my scores.size. Okay, and then I'm going to be adding another insertion operator and go with a new line. Alright, perfect. That said, finally, I'm going to be adding I'm going to be displaying my capacity. So I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator of, let's say, capacity. There we go. And then I'll go with another insertion operator. This is going to be my scores.capacity. Okay, is that how I spell capacity? Alright, perfect. And then I'll add another insertion operator and go with a new line. a / new line. Okay, that's pretty much it. Lastly, let me go ahead and return 0. Okay, and now if I were to hit Control S and save my code and run the command. Okay, so it says weak edge detected 2050. Okay, maybe after I like display my scores right up here. I displayed all my scores right here. Instead of adding like a new line here, I could add a standard console output with an insertion operator of a / new line here. This code right here, the standard console output, is basically like an empty print statement in Python. That said, I'll go with a Control S. Now if I run the command, there we go. It says weak edge detected. These are my scores. My front score is 20. My last score is 99. My size is 7 and my capacity is 12. Perfect. Okay, let's go with a Control C, copy that. Let me go ahead and get let's say /ChatGPT here. Okay, if I were to paste this, go with Shift Enter. Actually, I don't know what to say. Okay, Vivek, you did it. Your code is strong, but your logic is precise, and you've almost crafted a perfect weapon. Let's break it down. You've handled the odd check correctly with modulus 2 not equal to 0. You nailed the 2 bars. Is this called pipeline, guys, or like bars? And usage, you captured the range 50 and 70. Okay, with greater than or equal to and less than or equal to, you use push_back function, erase function, insert function properly. You displayed the front function, back function, size function, and capacity function. 2 tiny flaws hold back from perfection. Average start, strong finish, typo and finish, carelessness in position, soldier. Carelessness is poison, soldier. My bad, guys, I can't read. Unbalanced performance, typo and unbalanced. A sloppy blade cuts the wielder first. Other than that, your logic is unbreakable. You're now ready to face something greater, a problem that forces you to use nested logical conditions. Okay, this is going to be interesting. Let me say, ready, set, say. Okay, let's see. Thinking longer. I guess while Sensei's thinking longer, I could drink some water. Okay, never mind. Okay, good. I love this hunger for the first... Okay, I love this hunger. Time for the nested logic multiple vector check challenge. It's meant to force you to think step by step, not just fast. Do this cleanly, no slack. Nested logic plus vector mastery challenge. Instructions do exactly. Create a standard vector which just consists of integers named data with 8 numbers of your choice. Include a mix of even/odd, some below 50, some above 80. Print the whole vector in one line. Compute first equals to data.front and last equals to data.back. Okay, compute. What does compute honestly mean? I do know the meaning of it, but I've never thought of it that much. Okay, nested test. Use nested if/else inside another if. Okay, excuse me guys. If first is greater than 75, if last is even and data.size is greater than or equal to 8, print power start, strong front, stable back. Else if last is odd or data.size is less than 8, print power start, strong front, unstable back/small. Else I'm going to be printing power start, strong front, unknown back. Else, are they going to be like... Okay, so we have an initial if statement. Inside that we have a few nested if statements, okay, with an else clause, and outside the else clause, okay, I'm going to be adding another else clause. Else first is less than or equal to 75. I go with these. Okay, next check, separate from nesting above, count how many elements in the data are even. If more than half of the elements are even, print majority even. Else print majority not even. Honestly, okay, there are a lot here. That said, I could go like one by one, so let me just get Sensei/ChatGPT there. That said, I'll go with the control A, delete the whole thing. Let me start off by including IO stream. So I'll go ahead and include pair of ankle braces, IO stream. And then let me go ahead and include vectors. So I'll include vector. Okay, perfect. Next up, let me go ahead and typecast my main function to be an integer. I'll add a pair of curly braces here. Okay. Alright, and honestly, I might just like read the whole instruction. Okay, honestly, I think I should like read the instructions first before like blindly just going in. Okay, so compute first equals to Okay, I read that part. Next check, separate from nesting above, count how many elements in the data are even. If more than half of elements are even, print. What are these programs for? Is it HUST for conditional statements, or are you learning data structure? Honestly, I'm just learning like the basics of C++. Currently, I'm learning like this was supposed to be like logical operators. I am working on logical operators, including like if-else statement and some functions, some vector related functions. So I like get a quick gist of it. After that, I will be doing like some mini projects like later in the future, maybe at around day 50 or something of my C++ for 100 days, if that made any sense. Okay, count how many elements in data are even. If more than half are even, mutate vector, push underscore back, insert the value. At index 3, erase the element originally at index 1 carefully with order. After manipulation, print the full vector again, print front. Okay, print the front function, back function, values labeled as front value, back value. Okay. Print size, value, and capacity value. Final cleanup. If the vector size is greater than 9, clear, and print clear due to size. Otherwise, print kept vector. Requirement rules use and... What is this bars called? Is it called like pipelines? Exclamation and at least one nested if inside another if. Not just else if. Flattering. Okay, use the front function, back function, push underscore back function, insert function, raise function, size function, capacity function, clear function, and empty function somewhere in your code. Use modulus to check evenness. what is all this code for? Honestly, I'm trying to learn C++ for 100 days. This is a series indented inside of my programming for 100 days series. My goal by the end of my programming for 100 days series is to like make a game in general that includes AI in it / artificial intelligence in it. And I thought since I am going to be working with games, instead of using Python to make a game, I could learn C++ for 100 days out of the 250 days. And then I'm going to be moving on maybe to learn on how to use like game engines like Unity or something. I don't know, guys, because I did finish like my Python for 100 days series. Like I forgot how many days ago. I think it was around let me check real quick. I think it was like around 10 days ago or something. Yeah, it was like 10 days ago. I did finish my Python for 100 days series 10 days ago, where my goal, or like I made a game using Python. Like it is in my channel. That said, I did want to make something even better this time. Let me go to /ChatGPT there. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's cool. You're a star, dude. I appreciate you, Gears. That means the world to me. Okay, so let me start off by creating a standard vector. Bro, my cat wants to learn programming. Where should he meow start? Honestly, I do want a cat that actually knows how to program, guys, because I actually love cats. That said, I think he should start learning, I don't know, a cat language. Okay, so let me go ahead and create a standard vector which just consists of integers. I will be calling this vector, let's see, data. Okay, and I will set a few datas here. Okay, let's see, what all datas do I need to set? Okay, with 8 numbers of your choice. So let's go with 8 numbers. Since it is a data, I'll go with something like 12, 55, 21. Let's go with something like 17, and then 18, 19, and 0. Okay, are these 8? That's 3, that's 6, that's 7. I could go with something like 22. Okay, perfect. I will be ending my vector with a semicolon. That said, print the whole vector in one line. So to print my whole vector, I could go with something like a standard console output. But before that, since my vector is a container, I need to iterate / loop over it. So I'll go with a for loop. I'll go with for every integer of... I could go with this. I could keep this like plural datas. For every integer of data in my set of datas, or in my vector of datas. Okay, I'm going to be going with a pair of curly braces and then add a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be my data, which is going to be separated by a space. Okay, I'll add 2 insertion operators here as well. Alright, perfect. And then after my for loop, I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator of a / new. Okay, I'll tell him to learn meow language, but I think he already knows. He answered meow. I don't know what meow means. He probably meant me out or something, if that made any sense, guys, because he felt like program is going to be too much for him. All he wants to do is just relax in a place, guys. Like, let the cat relax in a place. Okay, with that said, compute first equals to data.front and last equals to data.back. So I think I got to create a few variables. So I'll create a front variable. I'll set that equal to, let's say, my data's vector.front. Okay, that's going to be my front variable. Honestly, is this how we create variables? I think I need to go with integer front. There we go, integer front. And then I'll go with integer, is it called last? Integer last. My last is going to be my data's vector.back. Yeah, he wants to sleep. That's what I'm saying, guys. Like treat cats like they're royalty, because like cats are royalty, guys. Okay, nesting test, use nested if / else inside another if. Okay, so nested if / else. So the first initial if statement needs to be if my first variable, which is going to be 12, if that is greater than 75. So if my, let's say, first variable, okay, is greater than 75. There we go. If my integer first, should I go with integer first? Okay, if my integer first. Oh, okay, if a pair of parentheses, there we go. Okay, so if my first is greater than 5, I will remove the semicolon from there. Okay, oh, no wonder I spelled my variable wrong. There we go. If my front variable is greater than 75, if the last, so now I got add another if statement inside. The question is, do I add a pair of curly braces and then add a if statement? I think this feels correct. Okay, if my last is even and my data.size is greater than or equal to 8, print power start, strong front, stable back. Okay, so if my last is even, so I could go with if my last variable, okay, if my last variable modulus 2 is not equal to, modulus 2 is not equal to 0, can't I use my last here? Should I, do I need to like go with integer last or something? Or is there a way to like localize this? Is there like a keyword to do this? I don't think integer last would work. I spelled my last correct. Might have to ask Sensei for this part, because honestly in C++ I like never worked with like nested if else if statements. Okay, I might just ask this part. Let me copy that, get Sensei GPT here. Let me paste it, go with shift enter and say Sensei I can't actually not can't, I don't have access to my last variable inside of my if statement. Is this part different from Python question mark? Okay, let's see. Vivek, you tripped on a very basic C++ rule, and yes, this is different from Python. In Python, you can just write if last modulus 2 is not equal to 0, but in C++, parentheses are mandatory, okay, around the condition. Without them, the compiler has no idea what you mean. So this, if last modulus 2 is not equal to 0, wrong. If, oh, okay, so... Alright, I thought that I didn't need a parentheses because... Okay, wait, no, that didn't make any sense. I do need a pair of parentheses. There we go, this makes more sense. Alright, so what was the next part? Okay, there we go. I was just scrolling up. Compute first. Okay, if my last variable is even and my data size is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, if my last variable, so if my last variable is even. If my last variable, was it even or odd? There we go, it's even, so this should be equal to. So if my last variable is even and data.size is greater than or equal to 8, so my data size, so I'll go with my data's vector, okay, dot the size function is either greater than or equal to 8, okay, I'm going to be printing something. Okay, let's display console output that says power start, strong front, stable back. So I'll go with std : standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like power start : strong. Okay, strong front, stable back. Okay, perfect. I will be ending that with a semicolon, and then I need to add a else if my last is odd or my data size is less than 8, print power start, strong front, unstable back / small. Okay, so I'm assuming I go with a regular else if now. So I'll go with else if, okay, a pair of parentheses, else if my last is odd. So let's go with my last variable, else if my last modulus 2 is, excuse me guys, is not equal to 0, okay, or my data size is less than 8, let's go with a pipeline or like a bar, or my data's is vector dot the size function, my data size is less than 8. Okay, I'm going to be displaying a console output. So let's go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying power start, strong front, unstable back / small. So let's go with something like power start : small front, actually strong front. There we go. A comma, unstable back / small. Okay, perfect. I will be ending that with a semicolon as well. Okay, else I'm going to be printing power start, strong front, unknown back. Okay, let's go with an else clause now. I'll go with an else clause. It is going to be lowercase, a pair of curly braces. I'm going to be displaying a standard console output. So let's go with standard console output with an insertion operator. I'm going to be inserting a text that is going to be saying power start. Power start. Maybe I zoom in a bit. Okay, power start colon, strong front, unknown back. So let's go with strong front, exclamation, actually comma, and then unknown back. There we go. I will be ending that with a semicolon. And then outside my if statement, outside my first ever if statement, so like outside that, I'm gonna be going with an else clause. There we go. Okay, for my else clause, if my first variable is either greater than, okay, my else has a first is less than 75. Okay, wait, hold up. Let me go with the control Z. So if my first variable is less than 75, okay. Wait, do we use like a pair of parentheses inside else? I didn't know we could do that. Okay. Hi dude, how you doing? Is it Duzino? How you doing, Duzino? I appreciate you joining the stream. That said, if I pronounce you guys' name wrong, guys, it is because like I'm real bad at pronouncing names. I should like actually great project. I appreciate you, Duzino. Okay, let's go with an else clause. So else my first variable is less than or equal to 75. I honestly never knew we could like do something like this. This is going to be front. Okay, I think we can be using like a pair of parentheses in like our else clause as well. Okay, and then I add a few nested if statements inside of my else clause. Okay, let's go with a if pair of parentheses. Okay, if my front is either greater than or equal to 50 and my last variable is less than 90, I'm going to be printing balanced rise, decent front, explosive finish. Okay, so let's go with if my front variable, if my front is either greater than or equal to 50 and my last is greater than 90. He is real great project, man. I appreciate you, Jazino. I'm an CSE fresh year and I think this is helpful. Honestly, that means a lot to me as long as I can help you guys. Okay, and eventually, like once I get real good with programming, my goal was to like make tutorial videos because I do like teaching others. That said, okay, if my front is either greater than or equal to 50 and my last is greater than 90, I'm going to be going with a standard console output. So let's go with standard console output with an insertion operator. Honestly, why does it show like a arrow mark here? I was pretty sure this is how we could like do stuff. If my front is less than, okay, I could check that in a bit. That said, I'm going to be printing or displaying a standard output that is going to be saying balanced rise, okay, with a colon, decent front. Let's go with decent front, explosive finish. Let's go with EXPLOSIVE finish. Okay, perfect. Alright, and then I go with an else if. I will be ending that with a semicolon, and after my if, I will go with an else if. So let's go with an else if, maybe lowercase. Else if, a pair of parentheses. Okay, my front variable is less than 50, and my last variable is less than 50. Print broken line, weak front, and back. Okay, so if my first variable, so actually it's called front. If my front is less than 50, okay, and my last is less than 50 as well, I am going to be displaying a text or a standard output with an insertion operator, which is going to be saying something like balanced rise, actually broken line, weak front and back. So let's go with broken line, colon, weak front and back. Okay, perfect. Lastly, I'll go with an else clause inside, a nested else inside of my initial else clause. Okay, else careful middle ground. Okay, else I'll go with a pair of curly braces. I will watch you progresso before friends see you. I appreciate you, Dizito. That actually means so much. Okay, I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like middle ground. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Actually, it did need to say careful as well, so I'll go with like a hyphen there and then add a careful. Careful. Middle ground. I'm currently doing hobby, web dev, and just Java, also hobby. Should I start learning C++? What do you think? Honestly, I just started learning C++ like 10 days ago, but I do see how C++ could be helpful and like if you want to like make softwares and everything. I haven't started like software development or making my actual initial game for my programming for 250 Cs, but I would say that C++ is honestly not that hard once you like actually understand the syntaxes. I feel it is almost kind of similar to what you call it Python, with just a few tweaks, like going with integers instead of just typecasting my stuff to an integer. So like usually in Python, I go with my variable here, and then I go with something like integer, pair of parentheses, my variable name. That typecast my variable to an integer. That said, I just need to add standard 2 colons console output with an insertion operator instead of adding a print statement. So it's almost the same. I would recommend learning it because it is kind of fun. Okay, next up, next check separate from, okay. I do want to ask you a question to Sensei. Let me go with the control C that, why does my else clause, actually I'll just go with my else clause part, because why is it showing like a error here? Let me get Sensei slash ChatGPT here, paste it, go with a shift enter and say, Sensei, why does my else clause show a red underline? Isn't this how we use it, question mark? Okay, let's see. Focus, Vivek, you're making up Python and C++. You're mixing up Python and C++ again like a fool who can't tell a sword from a stick. Okay guys, I guess I send the code again. In Java, the variables are also like integer variable name. Oh, I see. I honestly want to learn JavaScript as well. Foolish student, you dare write Python in my C++ dojo. Guys, I'm used to writing Python as my 10th day learning C++. This is not Python, this is C++. Here the else clause doesn't take a condition. Okay. Look, if condition do something, else if do something else final back. Your mistake, you wrote else my front is less than or equal to 75. Wrong, but in C++ you cannot put a condition after else clause. That's what else if is for. So fix it, else if front Or if you just want plain else, no conditions, okay, so choose either else if with condition or bare else. Okay, I see, so we can add a condition after this. Let me just go all the way up to my instructions here, good Sensei there. Okay, so we can be adding a condition here. I could like copy this part. Let me go ahead and copy that part, delete it. Okay, maybe I could go with a if statement and paste that. Okay, is this like a nested if? I'll go with like an else if here. Okay, else if my front. Maybe this whole thing should be indented inside my if statement here. Okay, let me go with a bunch of control Z's. Okay, I feel like I could change this to be an else if, so let's go with an else if. I will be adding an if here. So let me go ahead and add a if statement. If paste that, all in that with a semicolon. Okay, if my front is that, I want to do all this, so I could go with a pair of double quotes. This starts here and ends, let's say, all the way here. Actually, it starts there. I could go here. Now copy everything here. Delete it from there. Paste it here. Okay. I'm pretty sure that works correct. I'm a senior dev. Happy to see you guys learning your own way. Indentation won't matter in C++. Oh, I see. Okay, wait. Indentation doesn't matter in C++? Okay, in that case, wait, I could just go with like control Z's. Okay, this should work in that case if like indentation doesn't matter. Okay, front, back. Let me go ahead and add a semicolon here. Alright, perfect. Then in that case, this should be pretty much it. Okay, instruction number 5. Check, next check, separate from nesting above. Count how many elements in data are even. If more than half of elements are even, print majority even, else print majority is not even. Okay, so I gotta go with another check now. So I'll go with another if statement. Yeah, try running with any indentation. Honestly, yeah, that does make sense. Like, many people have been saying me that C++ doesn't like care if we indent or not, but I'm so used to Python, so I keep indenting stuff. I should like kind of not indent stuff. So I'll go with an if statement, a pair of parentheses, and then count how many elements in the data are even. Okay, so to count how many are even, I might have to go with a for loop. So let's go with a for loop. A pair of parentheses, I'll go with for every integer of let's say data. In my vector of datas, I'm going to be going with a pair of curly braces, and then let's see, let me count all numbers. Count how many elements in the vector are even. If more than half are even, print majority. Okay. How do I check if like more than half are even? Okay, I could go with uh my data. Is there like a way to like find if everything is even? Okay, let's see. So if more than half are even, I could add like an if statement here. If a pair of parentheses, if my data, okay, modulus 2, my data, if my, where's modulus? If my data modulus 2 is equal to 0, okay, that is going to be equal to even. Does this make any sense? I don't think it makes sense. Okay, let's think. So if my data is even, or I could go with my whole category, right? So if my data modulus 2 is equal to 0, okay, that is going to be considered even. In Python, the way I check if something is even, I go with, okay, if my variable modulus 2, print even. Okay, I could go with, I went with a for loop. Okay, if that happens, I will be printing, let me go with a standard console output with an insertion operator and print something like even. Okay, but I need to print majority even if most are even. This is going to print if my specific data is even. Condition is right? Oh, okay, good. Okay, since my condition is correct, let's see. Okay, if my data modulus 2 is equal to 0, if my data is even, standard console output even. I might go with another if statement here. If my data modulus 2, oh, I could go if like something like if more than my how many variables are there? How many elements are there? There are like 8 elements here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so if my data modulus 2 is equal to 0, I print even. Okay, and if majority are even, let me go with another if statement. If let's say, I actually might go with like another insertion operator, a space. Okay, and then if majority are even, to do that I could go with if my datas, okay, but I shouldn't be using datas here because it's like I'm using data. Okay, so if my data, let's say if more than, okay, if more than 4 are even, maybe I go outside my for loop. Okay, I think that's how we do it. Outside my for loop, majority is just more than half, right? Yeah, honestly, it is more than half. Oh, I could use more than, I could use like divided by 2. So if my data is vector divided by 2 modulus 2 equals to 0. Oh, that's actually genius. Okay, hold up guys, let me check that. So if my data is vector, so if my data is divided by 2, can I, okay, this should go inside a pair of parentheses. Okay, if my data is divided by 2, okay, can I use floor division? No mind. If my data is divided by 2, but shouldn't I be using a for loop for that? Okay, so if majority are even, so if there are 4 even, or I could go if my data modulus 2 equals to 0. Let's go with an AND. and let's go with 4 equals to even. Does that make sense? If data dot size divided. Oh, okay, that's okay. That makes sense. I should have thought of the size function. Okay, so if my data size, divided by 2, okay, modulus 2 equals to 0. That does make sense. Use a count variable to count a number of even. Okay, in that case, I might not need the if statement. Increment the count variable. Okay, increment the count variable. I could add a count somewhere here. Okay, so if my data dot size divided by 2 modulus 2 equals to 0, I'll go with a standard no? Okay, in that case, to like increment a count variable. Okay, I could change this to something like count. Okay, so if my data dot size, okay, you don't need the if every time there's a even number incremented. Every time there's an even number. Okay, I have a count variable here, so if my data dot size divided by 2 modulus 2 equals to 0, okay, then I'm going to be increasing my count by 1. Then my count variable is going to increase by 1. If data modulus 2 equals to 0, count plus plus. Okay, number 1, count even numbers. Odd numbers equals to number of elements in your vector. Count of even numbers. Okay, so first I got even numbers, and then odd numbers equals to number of elements in your vector. I see. Hey, anyone can say what is the question asked, because now I have joined. Honestly, I'm trying to like print I'm trying to show like a console output of majority even if majority numbers inside of my vector slash container are even, and if majority are odd, I print majority odd. Okay, so I was trying to figure out on what to do. I think this is my data size. Okay, so if my data size divided by 2 modulus 2 equals to 0, count plus equals to 1. Okay, and then let me go ahead and add another else if. So I'll go with an else if. So an else clause. Okay, so else if my, let's say, count variable. Okay, else if my count variable is greater than 4. Okay, greater than or equal to 4. Let me go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator that says majority even exclamation, and then I will be ending that with a semicolon, although before that I could go with like an insertion operator, a / new. Okay, and then let me go ahead and add a else clause. Else, let me print something else or add another standard console output. So I'll go with standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to say something like majority odd exclamation. If data.size is greater than count, console output with an insertion operator majority even. If data.size is greater than count. If data.size, oh, okay, because data.size is currently 4. Okay, I could do that as well. Let me go here and type if my data. Okay, if my data.size is greater than my count. Okay, every time I have an even number, my count increases by 1. Wait, I don't think. Okay, this is going to be data.size. My vector.size. Okay, I see. Is greater than my count, print majority even. Okay, that actually. Oh no. Okay, let me try this. Okay, else majority odd. Okay, I will be ending that with a semicolon. I do want to test this part real quick, so let me go ahead and return 0. Okay, I'm going to be returning 0 with a semicolon, maybe to leave the extra spaces. Okay, I'll go with a control S to save. Majority odd. Oh, okay, yeah, that does make sense. So if my data.size, which is currently 4, if that is greater than, if 4 is greater than my count. Okay, count increases by 1 every time there's a even number. You can add a new line like your message slash new. Oh, okay. I did add like a new here. I could add one here. Howdy, Kushal. I appreciate you joining this stream. Come on, kid. It's simple. 3 days continuously on your stream. I appreciate you, Kushal. Okay, you know, this actually feels pretty easy. I feel like I just need to learn how to read the syntax. Okay, I could go with like an insertion operator of a / new. Let me go with the control S and like run the command real quick. Okay. It doesn't print the insertion operator. So okay, honestly, I might have censored ChatGPT is helpful this question because I like actually never did question in this kind of format using nested if else if. We paste it, go with Shift Enter and say Sensei, I feel like I messed up dot. I've honestly never done questions in this format. Can you explain it to me once, question mark? Okay, let's see. Huh, so you've been swinging a sword without knowing how to hold it. Listen carefully, Vivek, because this is where many weaklings fall into confusion. Honestly, guys, I thought that most logics are the same in C++ as they are in Python. I think it's kind of different. The logic should be same, just the syntaxes should be different. Structure of if, else in C++, think of it as a ladder. If condition, if true, only this block runs and the ladder stops. Else if, extra rungs, is that how I pronounce it, rungs? They only get checked if all conditions before them were false. Okay, else if, extra runs. They only get checked if all conditions before them were false, I see. Else, the safety net, okay, this is like a wild card, so if none of the conditions are true, instead of giving an error or like not executing anything, it gives like an else clause. Okay, example breakdown. If my front is greater than 75, okay, big front start, else if front is greater than balance start. Okay, if my front variable is greater than 75, only the first block runs. If not, but front is greater than or equal to 50 and last is greater than 90, the second condition runs. If neither of the above but front is less than 50 and last is less than 50, third condition runs. If all fails, else runs. Okay, as a catch-all, your mistakes. You forgot a semicolon at the start of this line. Okay, should be you felt lost because the ladder seemed range, but it's just sequential check system. Okay, why do you think else if is checked only after if it? Let me actually go all the way up real quick. There we go, right here. Let me copy this instruction. Okay, let me copy that. Go all the way down, paste it, go with Shift Enter, and say Sensei, can you explain this question to me, question mark? Okay, let's see. Vivek, listen closely. This is just a big multi-stage battle of logic, vector manipulation, and conditional thinking. I'll break it down step by step so you don't trip over. Vector step up. Create a standard vector, okay, which only consists of integer. Call the data with 8 numbers. Make sure you include some even numbers, some odd numbers, some below 50, some above 50. This is your battlefield lineup. Standard vector, which just consists of integers, that is known as data, has these vectors or these values to it. Print all elements in one line. Front, back, compute first and last. Excuse me, guys. These represent the first soldier and the last soldier in your vector army. Their values determine special conditions. Nested if/else logic. This is a tricky part. Think of it as a decision tree. Case A, if my first variable is either greater than 75, if last is even and vector size is greater than or equal to 80, print power start, strong front, stable back. Okay, if my last else if my last is odd or my vector size is either less than 8, power start front. Okay, power start strong front, unstable backslash small, else power start strong front, unknown back. Case B, first if my first is less than or equal to 75, if first is greater than 50 and last is greater than 90, balanced rise, decent front, explosive finish. Else if first is less than 50 and last is greater than, actually first is less than 50 and last is less than 50, broken line, weak front and back, else careful middle ground. Tip, the inner if slash else blocks are nested inside the outer if else. Separate checks, count even numbers in data, if more than half, majority even, else majority not even. K, check if 77 exists in the vector, loop through. Don't use standard find. Okay, I didn't learn about the find function yet. Find function yet. Print found 77 or no 77. Mutate the vector. Push underscore back, add 100 at the end, insert 42 index, after mutation, print vector again. Okay, let me say, let's say, I honestly don't, okay, I honestly don't know how to, whatchamacallit, let's see, how to check if majority is even slash odd. Okay, let's see. Listen carefully, soldier. This is basic counting, but C++ doesn't read your mind like Python. You must loop through the vector at count. How to determine majority even? Initialize a counter for even numbers. Integer even count equals to 0. Okay, loop through the vector for the integer of number in my vector of data. If my number modulus 2 equals to 0, even count plus plus. Honestly, what does the plus plus do? Add 1 if it's even. Okay, shouldn't it be something like plus equals to 1 or like do both work? Compare with half the size of vectors if even count is greater than data.size divided by 2. If even count is greater than data.size divided by 2, okay, even count, okay, that increases every time a number is even. Else standard count, majority not even, standard end line. Guys, I honestly can't read Hindi. Can you guys like translate it? I should honestly learn on how to read Hindi. This is actually kind of this thing. Like maybe after my 100 series, I might do like learning different languages series. Although I do want to like learn different languages. I was learning Spanish though. Hey, is this asking that to print or if majority or print even if majority is even? Honestly, yeah, if like majority numbers inside of my vector is even, it says it like shows a standard console output that says even, else it says something like majority is not even. Okay, I think I see now. So first I gotta add a counter and then I gotta iterate over my vector and then I check if something is even. If it is even, I increase my count by 1. And then to compare outside, and then to compare, is this outside? Okay, I check if my number is even. Let me get sensei slash chat GPT there. Maybe I delete this for loop from here. Alright, let me try it now. Maybe I delete that as well. Okay, so let's see. I had to check if something is even. So I'll go with for a pair of parentheses. Let's go with something like for every integer of data in my vector of datas. Okay, I'm going to be adding a variable as well, honestly. I'll go with something like count on or something like count even. I'll set that equal to 0 by default. Okay, I'll set that equal to 0, add a semicolon. This is going to be an integer. There we go. Okay, next up, if something is even, let me go with an if statement. So if a pair of parentheses, if my data modulus 2, okay, if my data modulus 2 equals to 0, I'm going to be increasing. Let's go to pair of curly braces. I'll go with my count even variable. Count even variable. There we go. Plus plus. Okay, I've honestly never heard of plus plus. I'm assuming that means like plus equals to. I will be ending that with a semicolon. Okay, next up, after my if statement, I check if my count even is either greater than my data.size divided by 2. So maybe inside of my for loop, just outside of my if statement, I add another if statement. Let's go with an if statement. Wait, hold up. I could add this outside of my for loop. I'll honestly try that. So if my if a pair of parentheses, if my count even variable, okay, if my count even variable is greater than my data dot size, okay, if my data's vector dot the size function, okay, modulus 2, okay, what this basically means is if my number here, because this is going to be a number every time I get an even number, so if my even numbers is more than my data size, which is currently 8 divided by 2 makes it 4. So if it says that if my even numbers is more than 4 inside of my vector, I'm going to be printing something. Let's go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like majority even. So let me go with, how do you spell majority? I mean J-O-R-T-Y. There we go. Majority even exclamation, and then I'll go with, let's say, a standard new line. Instead, I could just go with a / new line. Okay, perfect. I will be going with an else clause as well. So maybe outside of my if statement, let me go ahead and add a else clause. Add me to the live, I'll help you. Honestly, like eventually I am planning to like, what we call it, stream with some of my subscribers and everything to like do project, but that's once I get a good grasp of it. That said, let's go with an else clause. Else, I could go with a pair of curly braces and type, actually add a standard console output with an insertion operator. I want to add something like majority, let's say majority odd. Okay, perfect. I will be adding another insertion operator of a / lowercase n. Okay, that should basically be it with this. Okay, this checks if it's even or odd. Next up, let me go ahead and check the next condition. Let me scroll all the way up until I find the instructional based question. Okay, there we go. Alright, so it says middle ground. I did add the middle ground part. Check separates. Okay, so it says check whether the vector contains the value 77. If yes, print found 77. Otherwise, no. So I could go with another if statement. Let's go with, honestly, instead of going with an if statement, I might go with a for loop. So I'll go with for a pair of parentheses. Let's say for every integer of data in my collection of datas or in my vector of datas. Okay, I'm going to be checking something. Let's say if 77 in data, wait, is this how we use in, or is there like a separate logical operator for in? I've never seen a for used with only one statement. That's clever. Honestly, guys, it is. Okay, I think for with one statement. Oh, right here. Yeah, guys, I think that is clever. I definitely didn't think this whole thing myself. Okay, although I don't take credit for this part, Sensei/ChatGPT will help me. That said, how do we check if something is inside of something? Isn't there a membership operator in C++? Okay, never mind, I'm wrong. I didn't know the syntax for iterating over vector. Oh, I see. Okay, let me go with the Control C again, copy that, get Sensei/ChatGPT here. Okay, let me go ahead and paste this, go with Shift Enter and say, Sensei, how do I check if a number is inside of my vector question mark? Aren't there membership operators in C++ question mark. I thought you had like a for without the increment and condition and stuff. Oh, I see. Okay, let's see. Haha, Vivek, you're thinking like Python again. Oh my gosh, I keep... Okay, guys, I am just used to Python because I did spend 100 days learning Python. That said, I am moving to C++. I thought there are going to be membership operators like in all programming languages. Okay, there's no in keyword in C++. That's a Python thing, not a C++ thing. In C++, you have to manually check each element either with a loop or a standard find. Okay, I've never heard of the find function as well. Okay, from algorithms. Okay, is present, I think. Oh, I see. Okay, option 1, loop manually. Boolean found equals to false for every integer of data in my vector of datas. If my data equals to 77, found 77 equals to true, break. Okay, I do know break statements are for loops. Like in Python, I feel like there were break statements. Stop searching for once. Okay. If found 77, standard count, found 77 else. Okay, that does make sense. Option 2, use standard find algorithm header. Include algorithm must include this. If standard find data.begin, standard end data.77 not equal to data.end. Okay. Standard console output insertion operator found 77 else. I see. Okay, rule of war, C++ does not do magic membership tests like Python. You either scan manually or use STL. What does STL stand for? STL algorithms. Is it like standard? Does it stand for something, STL? Okay, what was this called? Was it called something? Okay, from algorithm. So it says include algorithm. Okay. STL algorithms. If you want, I can rewrite the whole program. Let me say, sensei. Oh, standard library. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so say, which one do you recommend me using? Question mark. Manually or the STL question mark? STL is standard library. That actually makes so much sense. Listen, soldier, if you're learning C++ fundamentals, you want to strengthen your muscle memory, do it manually first. I'm glad Sensei said that. Even if like Sensei slash ChatGPT sent you the standard library, while starting, I do prefer like going with the complete basics. Even in Python, before I started learning like the functions like the convert or like the find alpha or like the is alpha function, I tried doing it manually, like going with if my a is less than or equal to my word, which is less than or equal to z. That means if my word is between A or Z, then I print something. Okay, that said, the standard library version is shorter and cleaner. You use it in real projects, but without the manual practice, you won't truly understand what's happening under the hood. Here's the battle. Manual search first. Okay, let's go with the manual search, I guess. Let me scroll all the way up till my instructional based question. It's like way too high. Damn, how high is it? There we go. Okay, let me get that here. Okay, I was in mutate. Okay, so now let me manually find if 77 is in my vector. For that, I'll create something like found 77 boolean variable. So I'll create a boolean variable. So maybe I go with something like bool found 77. I'll set that equal to false because I haven't found a boolean variable yet. I will be ending that with an insertion operator. Okay, there we go. Next up, I go with a for loop. So let me go ahead and add a for loop. So I'll go with something like for a pair of parentheses. Let's say for every integer of data in my vector of datas, I'll go with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like, okay, let's go with an if statement. And should my for loop go right here? Okay. Okay, let's see. So if a pair of parentheses, if my data, okay, equals to 77, I'm going to be doing something. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. I'll go with my found underscore 77 variable. Found 77 variable. I'll set that equal to true. Okay, and it is going to be lowercase true since this is C++ and like the booleans aren't capitalized. That said, okay, found 77 is true, I will be adding another if statement outside my for loop. So I could go with something like if a pair of parentheses, if my found underscore 77, if that is set to true, I'm going to be printing something. Let me go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. Let me go ahead and print something like found 77 exclamation. I'll add an insertion operator. Honestly, before semicolon, I'll go with an insertion operator and add a / new and then a semicolon. Let's go with an else clause now. So I'll go with an else clause, add a pair of curly braces, go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like did not find 77 exclamation. I will be ending that with a let's say an insertion operator. Okay, there we go. Okay, pair of quotes / new. Okay, and then a semicolon. Alright, that's pretty much it. Did not find 77. Okay, and then the instruction number 6. Push back 100 to my vector, insert the value 42 at index of 3, erase the element originally at index 1 carefully with order. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that first. Let me go ahead and push back something. Pushback basically adds a number or whatever we try to push back at the end of our vector. So I could go with something like my data's is vector dot the push underscore back function. I want to push back 100. Okay, and then I'll go with an insert. Insert the value 42 at index of 3. So I could go with my data's vector dot the insert function, and then I'll go with my data's vector again. Okay, data's dot the begin function. Since it is in the since I do want to find something at index 3, I am going to be plussing this by 4. Okay, here's the thing. Is it plussing it by 4? That's index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3. Index 3 is my 4th number. Okay, it says at index 3, so index 3 should be here. Let me plus it with 3 then. There we go. Index 3. Okay, and I want to push in 42. Okay, maybe the 42 goes inside, so 42, there we go. Okay, I will be ending up with a semicolon. Next up, it says erase the element originally at index 1 carefully with order. Okay, careful with order. So it says originally with number 1. So before my insert, I could go with my data's vector dot the erase function. I want to erase something. Since I want to erase my first ever element, I will go with my data's dot begin. Okay, this gives me my first ever element and I erase it. Then I'll go with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. For instruction number 7, after mutation, I just mutated all this, okay? After mutation, print the full vector again, print front and back values labeled as front is value, back is value. Print size, value, and capacity value. Okay, so let me go ahead and print the whole vector again. Since my vector is like a container, I will iterate / loop over it. So I'll go with a for loop for every integer of data in my vector of datas. There we go. I'll go with a pair of curly braces, and then let me go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator of data. Okay, I'll add another insertion operator of an empty space, so my data is like separated by a space and not like clumped up together. That said, if you want my Discord, is honestly, guys, I did like I actually forgot to like mention it. I do like have a Discord server. I forgot to like pin it, so like you guys could type exclamation Discord in the chat. Whoops. Let me go ahead and type it here real quick. So exclamation Discord. You guys could like join my Discord server and then like mention me there if you guys want to ask her, like help me with anything. That said, I did forget to add it. Exclamation Discord. There we go. Okay, I hope that link works. I did set that link to be permanent. That said, a standard console output of data. I will go with an insertion operator. Okay, and then after printing everything, I will be going with a standard console output with another insertion operator of, let's say, a standard new line. Okay, actually end line, so standard end line. Okay, perfect. Okay, so first I print the whole vector, this prints my whole vector, and then I add a new line, print front and back values labeled as front value and back value. So to do that, I could go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator. I could go with something like a string that says front, another insertion operator. This is going to be, let's say, my data's, okay, my data's is container dot the front function. The front function. And then I'll go with another insertion operator of, let's say, a new line. Okay, I'll end that with a semicolon. Now let's go with back. So I'll go with standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be back, okay, and then, excuse me guys, I'll go with another insertion operator. This is going to be data's dot the back function with another insertion operator of a new line. Okay, perfect. And then it says print size value and capacity value. Okay, so to do that, I could go with another standard console output. Standard console output, okay, with an insertion operator of, let's say, size. So I'll go with size. There we go, with another insertion operator of my data's vector dot the size function. Okay, I'll go with another insertion operator, a / new, a new line, and then I'll go with another standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be my capacity, so CAPACITY. Okay, with another insertion operator of my data's vector dot the capacity function. Did I spell capacity correct? There we go. Okay, with another insertion operator of a / new line. Alright, perfect. And then it says the final step, the final instruction number 8, final cleanup. If the vector size is greater than 9, clear it and print clear due to size, otherwise keep vector. Okay, so let's go with an if statement. So if if a pair of parentheses, so if the size of our vector is greater than 9, so let's go with if my data's vector dot the size function, if my data size is greater than 9, okay, is greater than 9, then I'm going to be clearing my entire vector. I will go with a pair of curly braces and go with my data's vector dot the clear function. Bro, I got an error. I got a error in hashtag defines skycrypt. Can you help? Honestly, in like what language is it, guys? Because if it's in Python, then I could like help. If it's in C++, I don't think I'll be able to help because this is my data. And although you guys could like join my Discord server and go to like the coding help category and like maybe mention somebody. For now, I don't have like much people, but eventually, like once the server grows, then I think that would like help a lot of people with programming, and I do like helping people with programming or in just helping people in general. That said, for that I should like actually learn my basics, so I will be trying learning my basics, guys. Okay, so if my vector size is greater than 9, I clear everything. Okay, and print clear due to size. Okay, I will go with like a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying cleared due to let's say size dot. Okay, and then I will be ending this, let's say, with another insertion operator of a standard new line. Instead, I could go with a / n. Alright, next up I will add an else clause. Else a pair of curly braces. This says otherwise kept vector. Let me go with something like a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like kept vector. Okay, perfect. I'll go with an insertion operator of new line. And that's honestly basically it, I think, for this. Let me go ahead and do Control S to save my command. If I were to run the code, let's see. Oh my gosh, it printed so many things. This is our original vector. Majority are even in our vector. 12 is even, 21 is even. Actually, no, 21 is odd. 12 is even, 16 is even, 18 is even, 0 is even, and 22 is even. Okay, perfect. Did not find 77. This is our new vector. Front, back. Our front is 55. Our back is 100. Size is 9. Capacity is 6. Okay, so it says kept vector since my size is not greater than 9. Okay, if I went with greater than or equal to 9 and I hit Control S, save my command. Okay, in this case, it would have said clear due to size because this is equal to, like greater than or equal to. Okay, perfect. Let's go with a control C, copy that, get say here. Okay, let me go ahead and paste this, go with shift enter and say, done, set say, dot, dot, dot. I do not take credit for this question. Although I did get a gist of how things work, dot, dot, dot. Can I get more questions like this, but one at a time, question mark? Okay, bro, my cat learned programming. He chose Meow Python. That's honestly pretty insane. I'm really curious to meet that cat someday. Okay, excellent soldier. You finally snitched everything in order. Loops, conditionals, logical operators, vectors, functions, and it looks like a battle-ready C++ program. I like that gift. We're going to level up now, one complex layered question at a time, and you'll handle it like a pro. Instructional question number 1, do this step by step. Don't cheat yourself. Create a vector. Okay, create a standard vector which just consists of integers. That vector is going to be known as scores with 10 numbers of your choice, mix, even slash odd, some below 50, some above 90. Print the vector in one line, okay. Store first as score.front and last score.back. Nested if slash else logic. If our first variable is greater than 80, okay, and indented inside of our first variable, if our last variable is odd and the vector size is either greater than or equal to 0, we print strong start on stable end. Else, if our last is even or vector size is either less than or actually just less than 10, we print strong start stable end slash small. Else we print strong start unknown end. Okay, then we go with an else clause outside of our nested if else. Okay, we go with our first else clause. First is less than or equal to 80. Okay. If first is greater than or equal to 60 and last is greater than 95, print balance start explosive end. Else if our first is less than 50 and our last is less than 50, print weak edge and the front and back. Okay. Else print careful moderate range. No mutations yet, just set up print nested logic. Okay, let me get say there. Maybe drink some water, guys. Okay, let me start off by going with a control A, deleting the whole thing. There we go, control A, deleting the whole thing. Let me start off by including IO stream. Let's go ahead and include, add a pair of ankle braces, and then go with IO stream. Okay, and then let me go ahead and include vector for my containers. So I'll go ahead and include a pair of ankle braces, my vector. Okay, and then let me go ahead and typecast my main function to be an integer. I'll add a pair of curly braces, maybe go with a bunch of spaces. Next up, let me go ahead and create a standard vector with an which only consists of integers. So I'll go with a pair of ankle braces, integers. My standard vector is going to be known as scores. I'll set that equal to a pair of curly braces and add a few scores. Let's see. Okay, excuse me guys, call scores with 10 numbers and your choice mix even slash odd, some below 50 and some above 50. Okay, so let's go with a few numbers. 20 is even and below 50. 30 is odd and below 50. 40 is even and below 50. 60 is even as well. I'll go with 70. 70 is above 50 and whatchamacallit, odd. Let me go with 99 now. Let's go with 12. Let's go with 13. Excuse me guys. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll go with 7, and then let's go with something like 33. That's going to be 8. That's going to be 9. Lastly, 10 is going to be 100. Okay, perfect. I will be ending my my standard vector, my container, with a semicolon and then print the vector in one line. So let me go ahead and iterate over my vector using a for loop for, let's say, every integer of score in my vector of scores. I'm going to be going with a pair of curly braces, and then let's go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator of my score variable. So let's go with score with another insertion operator. This time I'm going to be adding a empty space and end it with a semicolon. And then let me go ahead and add a standard console output with an insertion operator of a standard new line or end line. Okay, let's see. The instruction number 3 says store first vector. Okay, store. We create a variable called first and scores and stores scores dot front, and then we create another variable called last and store scores dot last. So let's do that. I'll go with an integer of, let's say, my first. I'll set that equal to my scores as vector dot the front function, and then I'll end that with a semicolon and go with another integer variable called last. I'll set that equal to scores dot last function. There we go. I will be ending that with a semicolon as well. And then instruction number 4 said nested if slash else logic. So let's go ahead and create a nested if slash else logic. That said, why does it show L-A-S-T? I spelled last correct. Okay, honestly, I feel it's called back. There we go. I don't know why I wrote last. Okay, that said, let me go ahead and create a if statement now. So if a pair of parentheses, if my first variable, if my variable that is called first is greater than 80, I'll add a pair of curly parentheses and then add a few, which we call it nested if slash else clause slash logic to it. Okay, so if my last is odd and my vector size is greater than or equal to 10, I print strong start unstable end. So let's go with that. I'll go with a if statement indented inside of my first if statement. So if my last variable, okay, modulus 2 is if my last is odd, so is not equal to 0. If my last variable inside of my container, which is 100, is not equal to 0, I print strong start unstable finish. Okay, and my vector size is greater than or equal to 10. Let's go with an and my vector, which is my scores, is okay, which is called scores. Okay, my vector size is greater than or equal to 10. I print something. Let me go with a pair of curly braces. Okay, and then add something like a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying strong start unstable end. So let me go ahead and add something like strong start comma unstable end. I will be ending that with a semicolon. That said, I could go with another insertion operator that says a /n. That's like a new line, and then add a else if. Okay, else if my last variable is even or my vector size is less than 10, I print strong start stable end slash small. Okay, let me go outside my if statement, which was indented inside of my initial if statement. I'll go with an else if. Else if, let me add a pair of parentheses, my last variable is even this time. So my last modulus 2 is equal to 0. Okay, or my vector size is less than 10. For or, I'll add this pole sign. Is it called like pole or like pipelines? Or my vector size, so my scores is vector dot the size function is less than 10. So is less than 10. I'm going to be adding a pair of curly braces and go with the standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying strong start stable end slash small. Let's go with strong start. Okay, stable end slash small. Okay, I will be adding another insertion operator and going with a colon new line, and then add a semicolon to end this off. And then I'm going to be going with an else clause that says print strong start unknown end. Okay, so I'll go with an else clause. Else a pair of curly braces. I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like strong start unknown end. Okay, perfect. I will be going with another insertion operator, a /n for a new line. Okay, that said, now outside of my initial if statement, I am going to be adding an else clause as well. With an insertion operator, this is going to be checking something. If my first is greater than or equal to 60 and my last is greater than 95, I show a standard console output that says balance start explosive end. Okay, so inside my else clause, I could go with like an if with a pair of parentheses. Okay, so if my first variable is either greater than or equal to 60, okay, and my last variable is greater than 95, and my last is greater than 95, okay, I show a standard console output. Let me go with an insertion operator and go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. Okay, I'm going to be printing something like balance start explosive end. There we go. Okay, perfect. I will be ending this with an insertion operator and a new line, so /new and a semicolon. And then I add an else if here, so let me go ahead and add a else if. There we go, else if a pair of parentheses. Else if my first variable is less than 50 and my last variable is less than 50 as well, I print weak edge front and back. Okay, so if my first is less than 50, if my first variable is less than 50 and my last variable is less than 50 as well, I add a pair of curly braces. Is it called last? Okay, it is called last. There we go, this should be two hands. Okay, I go with a standard console output with an insertion operator, which is going to be saying something like, let's see. It says weak edge front and back. So let me go ahead and add weak edge front and back. Okay, there we go. I will be adding a an insertion operator. New line. Okay, and then ending with a semicolon. Lastly, I'll add an else clause inside of my initial else clause. So I'll go with else, a pair of parentheses. This is going to be having a standard console output, so a pair of curly braces. I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying careful, moderate range. So let's go with careful. Okay, moderate range. Okay, he chose meow Python. Okay, perfect. Let me end that with a semicolon as well. Lastly, I'm going to go ahead and return 0. Returner is going to be lowercase. Okay, if I were to go with the Control S, save my code and run the command. Okay, why does it say main.cpp? Did I get like an error somewhere? Okay, it does say careful moderate range. Let me just delete the whole thing and run it again to be sure. Warning, left shift count is greater than or equal to width type. Is that line 38? Oh, okay, I went with an insertion operator. Guys, I'm so used to, instead of like typing a greater than sign, I'm like so used to typing an insertion operator which is to less than sign, so I get used to that. I will go with a Control S. Even hydrate my lips. Okay, perfect. Actually, before I hydrate my lips, let me just go with let me go with the Control C, copy that, let's say here. Okay, let me paste it. Send it, now hydrate my lips. Okay, alright soldier, you nailed the nested if/else structure. Logic looks solid, vectors setup is correct, and you're using .front and .back properly. A few battle notes, typo alert, balance start, explosive end should be balanced out. Okay, I do know I get a lot of typos. You put 11 numbers in the vector instead of 10, not a big deal, but the instructions said 10. Discipline matters. Okay, other than that, this is clean and readable. You're thinking like a C++ warrior. Next step, fix typos. Let me actually say, can I get another instructional based question without getting any hints like use this sign etc. dot dot dot. Use this sign. Okay, let's see. Listen up, soldiers. I'm going to give you a full rare challenge. No hints, no holding back. You either write it or you wrestle it until your brain bleeds. Okay. I did ask, like, so I don't want like these things like type that or like do these. I didn't want those things. Okay, that said, let's read it. So first I create a standard vector that just consists of integers called values. I print the vector, I compute two variables, one is for the front line, one is for the back. And then nested conditions, if first line is greater than 70, I do that. Else my first line is less than 70, I do that. Count how many numbers in the vector are even, print majority if even. Okay, if more than half, print majority not even. Check whether the vector contains the number 77, print found 77 or no 77. Stop. No mutations yet. Only set up nested logic counting and membership checks. Okay, let me get some say there. Let me go with the control A, delete this whole thing. Okay, let me start off by including IO stream. So I will be including a pair of ankle braces, IO stream. Okay, and then let me go ahead and include, let's say, vector, because I do want to work with conditions or like containers. Okay, vector. Alright, next up, let me start off by typecasting my main function to be an integer. I'll go with a pair of curly braces. And then let's see, I'll go with a standard vector. Okay, my standard vector is only going to be consisting of integers. My vector is going to be called, what was it called? Okay, it's going to be called values with 8 values of your choice. Mix, small, large, even, and odd. Okay, values. Okay, which is going to be equal to a few values. The values are going to be small, large, even, and odd. So small could be like 10, large could be like 99, and then even could be 20, odd could be 30, 33. And then I'll go with another small, something like, let's say 1, and then I'll go with something like large, 80, 89, that's odd, and then even 88, I'll go with 0. Oh wait, it just said 8 numbers, right? How many did I add? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, perfect. I will be ending my my vector with a semicolon, and then it says print the vector in one line. In order to print my vector in one line, I will go with a for loop and iterate over my vector for a pair of parentheses for every integer of value in my container of values or in my vector of values. I'll go with a pair of curly braces and then add a standard console output with an insertion operator. Let me go ahead and insert my values, which is going to be separated with an empty space. Okay, I will go with a semicolon, and outside my for loop, I'll add a standard console output with an insertion operator of a standard end line. So I get access to a fresh line now. Okay, the instruction number 3 says compute a variable called first, which is equal to our values.the front function, and a variable called last, which equals to our vector.the back function. So let's go ahead and add a first variable. I will be typecasting my variable first to be an integer. So integer first is going to be equal to my vector of values dot the front function. This gives me access to the number 10 inside of my vector. And then I'll go with integer last, I'll set that equal to my values dot the back function. This gives me access to the 0. Okay, to the last number inside of my vector. And then the instruction 4 says nested conditions. If my variable first is greater than 70, so let me go with something like an if statement, a pair of parentheses. If my variable first is greater than 70, there we go, I'll go with a pair of curly parentheses and now a pair of curly braces, and now inside it I'm going to add another if statement. If my variable last is even and my vector size is greater than or equal to 8, I print powerful start stable end. Okay, let me go with a standard console output, excuse me guys, with an insertion operator. Honestly, before I go with a standard console output with an insertion operator, I'll add another if statement that says something like, that checks if my variable last is even and my vector. Okay, so if my variable last modulus 2, okay, modulus 2 equals to 0, and okay, and my vector size is greater than or equal to 8. Okay, and my vector of values dot the size function is either greater than or equal to 8. I'm going to be printing or displaying a console output. So let's go with a standard console output with an insertion operator that says something like powerful start, stable end. So let's go with a pair of double quotes that says powerful start, comma, stable end. Stable. Okay, perfect. I will be ending that with a semicolon, but before that I'll add another insertion operator and go with a /n. That's a new line. Okay, next up, for an else if clause or an else if statement, I'll check if my variable last is odd or my vector size is less than 8. If that is true, I'm going to be printing powerful start, unstable end. Okay, so I'll go with an else if clause, else if, I'll add a pair of parentheses. Let's check if my variable last modulus 2 is not equal to 0. Okay, and my values is vectors. Okay, my values dot size, if my vectors dot size is less than 8, I'm going to be displaying a standard console output. So I'll add a pair of curly braces and then go with standard console output with an insertion operator. I'm going to be inserting something like powerful start, unstable end. So powerful start, unstable end. There we go. And then I'll go with another insertion operator and insert a / new line. Okay, lastly, go with an else clause and print powerful start, unknown end. So let's go with an else clause. Else a pair of curly braces. I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. I'm going to be inserting something like powerful start, unknown end. Okay, perfect. And then I'll add an insertion operator of a / new line. Okay, perfect. I'll end that with a semicolon. And now outside my if statement, outside of my nested if statement, I'm going to be going with an else clause with a pair of curly braces. That's going to be checking if my first is either less than or equal to 70. So I'll go with if my variable first is less than or equal to 70. Okay, this is going to be inside of a pair of parentheses. So let me go with a pair of parentheses. Okay, if that is true, I'm going to be doing something. I'll go with another if statement. If my variable first is either greater than or equal to 50 and my variable last is greater than 90. So let's go with a pair of curly braces. So my variable first, this is another if statement. So if a pair of parentheses, if my variable first is greater than or equal to 50 and my variable last, my last variable is greater than 90, okay, I'm going to be printing or displaying a standard console output that says balanced front, explosive back. Okay, I'll go with another pair of curly braces. I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like balanced front, explosive back. Okay, perfect. I'll end that with a semicolon. Actually, I'll go with a / and new line. Okay, and then I'll end it with a semicolon. Okay, perfect. Next up, I add an else if. Honestly, I do feel something here. Okay, these are like two nested. This is like, actually I think this is pretty much correct. Okay, I think that is correct. Okay, I'll go with an else if now. So else if, I'll add a pair of parentheses and then it says else if my variable first is less than 50. So let's go with my first if it's less than 50. Okay, and my last is less than 50 as well. I'm going to print weak front and back. Let's go with a pair of curly braces, add a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying something like weak front and back. There we go. Okay, else print careful moderate range. Okay, I will be ending that. Let's go with a / new line. Okay, and then I'll go with an else clause now. Else, a pair of curly braces. I am going to be printing something like standard console output. That's going to be saying, okay, careful, moderate range, exclamation. And then I'm going to be adding another insertion operator of a / new line with a semicolon. Perfect. Okay, and then count how many numbers in the vector are even, print majority even if more than half, else print majority not even. Okay, so to count how much, I'll go outside my if statement. I will be creating a variable called count even. Okay, and I will typecast that to a boolean value. I'll set that equal to false initially because I haven't started counted any. I haven't been counting anything. And then I'll go with a for loop. I'm going to be iterating over my vector. So for every integer of, let's say, a value in my vector of values, okay, I'm going to be checking something. Okay, so inside my for loop, I'm going to be adding an if statement. So if a pair of parentheses, if my value modulus 2, if my value modulus 2 is equal to 0, if my value is a 0, I'm going to be adding a pair of curly braces, and then going with, let's say, my count, excuse me guys, even plus plus. Okay, what this basically does is it adds a 1 to my even. I will be ending that with a semicolon. And then outside of my for loop, I'm going to be going with an if statement again. So if a pair of parentheses, let's say if my if my count even, actually this is going to be an integer. Okay, integer, there we go. This is going to be initially set to 0. Oops, there we go. This is okay, that makes much more sense. Okay, if my count even variable is either greater than or equal to my vector of values dot size dot the size function divided by 2. Okay, so if there are initially 8 values inside of my vector of values, okay, if there are 8 elements inside of my vector, I get the size of my vector, that is going to be 8. I divide it by 2. If my count even is greater than or equal to, so if either my even numbers count is 4 or more than 4, it is going to be considered, I'm going to be printing something. I'm going to be going with a standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying majority even. How do you spell majority? M-A-J-O-R-T-Y. There we go. Majority even with an insertion operator of a / new line. Okay. And then I'll go with an else clause. I'll go with else. Else, a pair of parentheses. I'm going to be going with another standard console output with an insertion operator. This is going to be saying majority odd. Okay, and then let me go ahead and go with another insertion operator of a / new line and a semicolon. Okay, check whether the vector contains a number 77, print found 77 or no 77. Okay, so to check that, I might need a boolean variable to check if the vector is inside of, if that element is inside of my vector. So let me go ahead and create a found, actually a boolean variable, a boolean variable called found 77. I will be setting that equal to false because I haven't found a 77 yet. And then let's go ahead and iterate over my my vector again. So I'll go with for a pair of parentheses. Let's go with for every integer of I could go with something like value. For every integer value in my vector of values, I'm going to be going with another if statement. If a pair of parentheses, if my value equals to 77, okay, I'll go with a pair of curly braces and go with my found 77 boolean variable. I will be setting that to true, and then add a pair of curly braces. Actually, then add a semicolon. Outside of my for loop, I'll go with another if statement and type if a pair of parentheses. If my found 77 is true, which it is going to be true, or if I do find a 77, okay, if found 77, I'll add a pair of parentheses and then go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. Okay, that says something like found 77. Okay, I will be going with an insertion operator that has a / new line. Okay, and then I'll end this with a semicolon. Honestly, I might go with an else clause inside of my for loop as well. Else, I'll go with a pair of curly braces. Found 77 variable is going to be equal to false. I will be ending that with a semicolon as well. And then under my this if statement, I will be adding an else clause as well. Else, let me go ahead and add a pair of curly braces. I'll say something like, I'll go with a standard console output with an insertion operator. And then I'm going to be saying something like not found, 77 not found. So I could go with something like 77 not found. Okay, and then I'll go with another insertion operator of a / new line. Alright, perfect. Check whether the vector contains... Okay, this is pretty much it. Let me go ahead and return 0. And then if I were to do Control S to save the code and run the command, 77 not found, majority is even, 10 is even, 20 is even, 88 is even, 0 is even. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 even. Okay, technically majority is even because of my condition here. I said if my okay, I did say if my value is either greater than or equal to my value size. So if my even numbers is either greater than or equal to 4. Okay, it says majority even. Perfect. Okay, let me go ahead and do a Control C, copy that, get /chat GPT here. And guys, I honestly might end this stream like in a bit maybe, because I do have like some college stuff to do. I know like my exam was over like whatchamacallit yesterday, although I already have an exam in a few days. That said, I will be saying, I won't say anything, I'll just end it. Then let me drink some water. Kinda exhausted, guys. Okay, listen carefully. You're super close, but you made a few critical mistakes that will break your logic. In your nested if/else for the first, okay, you went with if my variable first is greater than 70, your second condition is wrong. Okay, it should trigger if either the last is odd or size is less than 80, not both. How you, bro? Honestly, I'm doing pretty good. How you been, Z? What is this code for? Honestly, this code is just for basically me understanding how C++ works, because I am like, this is a series where I'm going to be learning C++ for 100 days, which is eventually going to be helping with my programming for 250 day series. The C++ for a 100 day series is like indented inside of my programming for 250 day series, where my goal by the end of the programming for 250 day series would be to make a game in general that consists of AI logic in it / artificial intelligence in it. Okay, with that said, it should trigger if either the last is odd. Okay, 77 check found. Okay, minor count. I want you to fix these 2 points. So what were the 2 points? In the 77 check, you're resetting found 77 to false on every number that isn't 77. That kills your logic right now. Even if 77 existed earlier, the last number in the vector will override it. You need to set it to true. Okay, when found 77 and never reset. Okay, minor count even greater than or equal to values.size divided by 2. You need greater for more than. Okay, not greater than or equal to, otherwise exactly half counts as majority. Okay, those are a few logic mistakes, but I did add those conditionals on purpose. Okay, that said, I mean, this also would work, honestly. Okay, I will be removing that as well. Okay, if found 77, not found 77, and then when finding majority, I will just keep it to be greater. Okay, if I were to go with the Control S to copy, run the code. Okay, so it says no 77 found, majority odd, weak and back. Okay, let me copy that, Control C, good sensei there. Okay, let me paste it, go with Shift Enter. Honestly, guys, I actually might end the stream right now. I didn't want to stream for longer, but I do have a lot of homework to do. That said, let me say, Sensei, I feel like I got a quick gist of how this works. Dot dot dot. That said, I was planning to end the stream since I got college stuff to do. That said, I do want to work more on this next stream. So, is there anything that you want to say to the viewers before I end the stream? Question mark. Guys, I did not want to add that in caps. Okay, listen up viewers. Today we saw Vivek grapple with logical operators, vector functions, and nested if statements. If he didn't just write code, he fought for the logic monster and learned how to think like a C++ warrior. Next time we'll go deeper, harder, and trickier. So stupid, so study, practice, and don't waste your time. Vivek didn't. Okay guys, let me go to my main camera real quick. Alright guys, so basically that was pretty much it for the stream. I'm not in the center of the camera. I wasn't in the center the whole time. Okay, that said, I did stream like for 2 hours and 10 minutes before my college started. I used to stream like for average 6 hours to 4 hours at least. That said, after my college, maybe I'm going to be streaming for even longer. That said, again, if you guys enjoyed the stream, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, like it helps with my algorithm, share, and makes me smile, and subscribe means like it cherry on top. And guys, I did start multi-streaming on Twitch, Kick, and YouTube at the same time. So if you guys haven't followed me on Twitch and Kick yet, and you guys enjoy my content, make sure to follow me on Twitch and Kick. And if you guys haven't subscribed to me on YouTube yet, make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube with the top posted notifications turned on, and also join the Discord. Well, I'll catch you guys in the next live stream or video. Peace!